Hello everyone, my name is Suraj Gupta. I'm teacher and founder of this amazing platform called Trio Teachers, where we are connecting teachers, students, and institutes according to their requirements. Now we are in the fifth episode of Trio Talk 3.0, where we are actually uh, uh, doing some live sessions with the renowned speakers. We have actually conducted few sessions with Manas Patnaik sir, Shanti ma'am, who is a government school teacher, Manas Patnaik, who is known as engineering graphics, god of engineering graphics, particular for engineering students, and Ribhu Mukherjee sir and ACP sir from Mumbai. So we have covered mental health topic, we have covered personalized analysis, and we have covered role of teachers in this particular COVID situation. And now we are having with us Simarjit Singh sir, a great personality, international motivational speaker, and I remember when I started watching his video. It is around 6 or 7 months ago, and
Mhm.
it's been absolute pleasure to me, sir, to having you. First of all, good afternoon, sir, and welcome, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Well, my pleasure, Suraj. Always a pleasure to work with young entrepreneurs like yourself who do something who are not just seeking jobs when they graduate, who are creating jobs, who are adding value to the economy, who are challenging the status quo, who are bringing something new for all of us. So my pleasure to be here.
Correct. So before
And
starting the
to all our
session, yeah,
viewers, and to all our viewers, to all our Muslim friends, I would also like to wish Eid Mubarak to all of you, because it's Eid today. So our love and blessings and best wishes. And also, Suraj, I think it's very important that we should also mention that all our viewers should be following very strictly the COVID guidelines, because our country is going through a very tough time. We can make a positive contribution by doing simple things: washing hands, maintaining social distancing, wearing double masks as and when where you can. Of course,
correct.
I'm in a live feed. I'm all alone in the studio, so I don't have to wear a mask. Stay at home and get vaccinated, please. Yes, the science works. The science is real. Go for the science.
Yeah.
Thank you, Suraj.
Yeah. So again, I will. You have covered all the points about the COVID instruction, but I will add one point. Do help as much as people you can, even in your
Of
surrounding.
course.
Right.
Sure.
So let's start the session, sir. I have a list of questions for you because
Hmm.
there are some of my friends also wanted to ask some question from you, and they have sent me some
Hmm.
question. So the
Hmm.
first question is, I really wanted to know your journey, sir. You were settled at a time, and then you have suddenly you have suddenly choose a different path. You are doing something else, and now you are a motivational speaker, inspiring millions of people. You have 1.3 million, more than 1.3 million subscribers on YouTube. So
Hmm.
me and my viewers wanted to know your journey, sir. Please, over to you.
So I'll give my answer in short here, because I've spoken about my journey in detail in numerous other podcasts, numerous other videos. But what I will want to share with your viewers, Suraj, is that one of the most dangerous diseases on this planet is boredom. The most dangerous things on this planet that can happen to a human being is boredom. When you are bored, you make the wrong choices. When you're bored, you're not using your full energy. When you're bored, you get into addictions. When you're bored, you are not utilizing the gifts that God has given you. So 2007, when I changed my track, is the time when I was bored with my life, right? And especially when you have everything, you tend to be bored. When you don't have things, there's a fire in your belly. But when you have everything, you tend to be bored. So if you find yourself in a place where you're very comfortable, where you feel, okay, I have everything, my parents have given me everything, right? Everything is taken care of. And
Mhm.
I don't know what to do now. I'm spending 5 hours on my screen. The Apple screen time is telling me at the end of the week, my graph is going up all the time. I'm looking at the screen. I'm just mindlessly scrolling through social media or through other platforms. That's a time when you need a new challenge.
Correct.
And in 2007, I realized this, that I needed a new challenge. I'm reading an interesting book by a gentleman called Robert Greene,
Mhm.
which is called The 33 Strategies of War.
Mhm.
Very nice book. And one of the chapters in that book is the death ground strategy.
Mhm.
So, what is the death ground strategy? The death ground strategy is some of the greatest generals in the world. Hernan Cortez, the person who from Spain, the one who conquered Mexico, right?
Okay.
Napoleon,
Mhm.
and so many other great generals, including Sun Tzu in the Art of War. They have spoken about this, that soldiers fight most fiercely when their back is against the wall, when they are staring at death and there is no escape. So a soldier can fight 4 or 5 times better if they are in that situation where it's a life or death scenario.
Correct.
Including, I was just reading the chapter today where Hernan Cortes, what he did, because they sailed from Cuba to Mexico and they wanted to conquer Mexico. 500 people only, just 500 troops he had. And they wanted to conquer the mighty Aztecs who were ruling Mexico at that point of time. So they had these ships, and the people, as long as the ships were parked in the harbor, the ships represented a safe passage back to Cuba.
Correct.
As the ships were not just a ship, he said, the ship was safety. The ship was, I can go back. The ship was, I can go back to my family. So what he did, he created this scenario where he told his captain, I said, just, put some holes in the ship so that it starts sinking slowly, and tell the crew that the worms have eaten the ship and now we cannot go back. Now, these same people, at first they were very angry with the captain, why he did this. But now he said that the only way is the way forward, and we will conquer a new land. So people can do wonders when they challenge their boredom and they push themselves, right? So this is what I had to do. I realized this. I was lucky. A lot of people don't realize this. 2007, I realized this. I said, look, I am wasting my life. I am probably not putting in as much effort as I should be. So that's when the realization happened that I need more challenges. Yes. So that's my journey, and that's where it's brought me today.
Correct. So when situation comes like that, do or die, then if anyone can anything. That is something I am getting from you, sir. So, sir, in your journey, you have, you have briefly said. I would really like to know more about your school and your college. What you have done in your, how you were in your school and in your college.
I was a shy kid, a shy, reserved kid. I had
You are a shy kid.
a few. Yeah, I was a shy kid. You can say I was an introvert at school, in the sense that I was selective about my company. I had loads of good friends. I mean, but my circle was small. But I was not the extrovert who would go on stage and sing songs and dance or just raise his hand for every class activity and things like that. I had my own little world. I had a bunch of friends who had the same interests as I did, and so I think formal education was also, some subjects were difficult, some teachers were difficult. School was not always a very pleasant. Now for kids these days, they love going to school. No? My daughters, they miss their school so much, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, do they miss their friends as much, or do they miss the entire experience? Can't say about that. But when I was growing up, Suraj, I think school was, at times, it did feel like a little punishment, because I am by nature a very curious, a very creative person. So for me, school at times did prove to be like a little hindrance. You have to be within the boundaries. However, certain interesting things also happened, especially I'm blessed. The college, I grew up in a small city in district Gurdaspur, which is called Batala. We had a wonderful college there. It was called Bering Union Christian College, one of the second biggest libraries in Punjab, if I'm not wrong, with books, some of them dating back to 1870s and early 1900s, right? Huge library, beautiful library. So I would often get the time to spend there, and that has contributed. My home environment, my father loved a lot of literature, a lot of different books. He had a variety of interests. So right from the Bhagavad Gita to the Holy Quran to the Bible to the Osho's translations of the six scriptures, we had all the books around as a child, and that sort of that environment helped me unleash my curiosity and learn more about the world. Math was always a very difficult subject. I've shared this in one of the videos also, which is, the video is titled "How I Ended My Love Affair with X." So I had a problem with suppositions. So X, algebra, I had a problem with that. So, but I wasn't bad at numbers. That's what I realized when I took commerce. Now, commerce had very little math at that point of time. And accounts, I did very well, because accounts is straightforward. There are no suppositions.
Correct.
Okay, there is a suspense account. We have the suspense account. So we put, when we don't know where the money goes, we put it in the suspense account. But it made sense to my logical self. And that's where I discovered not every student is made for every subject, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
And you don't have to push yourselves hard. You don't have to push the next generation hard. So if you have a child who has a music talent for music, there's no point going after his or her life for physics, right?
Exactly.
Dr. Howard Gardner talks about this in his multiple theory of multiple intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think every teacher, every educator should read the theory of multiple intelligence, wherein he says interpersonal intelligence is an intelligence, how to deal with other people.
Correct.
And we know so many people who have zero formal education, but they're very good at people, how to make others emotional, how to get from them what you want.
Mm.
And these people, they do wonders, even though they never pass school.
Right.
So think about that. That is interpersonal intelligence. Think about something like spatial intelligence, like how to use your body and how to, drive a car, or these speed racers, or someone like Sachin Tendulkar, a cricketer like Sachin Tendulkar, or someone. So he does not need to study algebra to sense at what speed the ball is coming, where is going to come, and how to position his bat.
You just hit the ball.
So it's instinct.
Yeah.
So we need to discover that, and I think I was lucky enough to discover that gradually. And then I did my hotel management, 1999, from 96 to 99 in IHM Chandigarh, another wonderful institution. And then the next 8 years, I worked in the hospitality industry with hotel companies across the world, which was both tough but very rewarding. As I look at it in hindsight, it was very tough at that point of time. But who I am today is courtesy to that industry.
Right.
It's made me who I am. I learned so much. I lived and traveled in different parts of the world. I lived in the US, I lived in the UK, I lived in Dubai for a while. I went to school in Australia. Came back to India in 2007 with a desire, all over the world pretty much, and then came back home in 2007 with a desire to serve my country. And so
you are doing great, sir. You are doing great. You are inspiring millions of
I'm doing my bit. Thank you. I'm doing my
So
bit.
when you said you were an introvert or shy kid in a school, so it was a bit shocking for me also, because right now you are booming.
I'm a late bloomer, no? I'm a late bloomer. So,
sir,
I'm still very selective about the company that I keep. But, but yeah, perhaps I open up a little bit more now than I used to before.
Okay. So, sir, moving forward to our topic, that is role of teachers. Another question about role of teachers is, sir, as we know that we are going through this pandemic, right? So, what changes do you think one teacher should be brought up to gear up the better education?
I think especially in the midst of the pandemic, because a lot of new technology has come in, the number one things that teachers need to do, and they've done it very well, and for that they deserve a round of applause for teachers across the world. They've done it beautifully, is that they have adapted and embraced technology. And I think that's what every teacher needs to become very good at right now, is adapting and embracing technology, because it's here to stay. Even after the virus is gone, the progress we have achieved with the digital tools, so now tier 2, tier 3 cities in India are getting internet speeds of 300 megabytes per second. And that is going to change the landscape forever. Right? These digital tools, as the cost of the smartphones goes down, cost of these tablets and other sort of digital devices goes down, entrepreneurs like yourself are connecting teachers with students, and all these new companies come in.
Correct.
We are going to see a learning revolution, right? Now, with great teachers build great nations.
Right.
And for great teachers to stay relevant in these changing times, I would say just this: fall in love with technology, understand it like your life depends on it, because this is a tool, it's a medium that will take your message out to the masses. If you're a good chemistry teacher and you're sitting in a tier 2, tier 3 city somewhere in India, you now have the wherewithal, the resources to take your learning to millions of young kids across not only India, across the world. This is the bridge that the English language helps us cross.
Exactly.
So if an instructor can teach in English, he's got students not only all around the Indian subcontinent, but also perhaps all of Africa, all of South America, so many other parts of the world where people understand functional English. So this is one of the most exciting times in history for teachers and students. Right. Number one thing I would recommend is be innovative, engage your students, right? Reinvent yourself. Take out time to fill yourself up. This is my message for every teacher.
Correct.
Fill yourself up with new knowledge, new ideas, new positivity, because only then you'll be able to give it out to your students, right? So
Correct.
yeah, these are the important things to keep in mind at this point of time.
And as a teacher, actually, I can feel these points. Actually, I remember when first lockdown happened around 1 year ago. Then I was also not very much familiar with taking online classes. So I totally agree with you, that sentence which you said, teachers should be innovative and they should adapt the change. That is very important. And I think after this pandemic, when this pandemic will over, at that point of time, we will be having a very good combo of online and offline teaching system.
Right, right. So we saw so many videos of these teachers who had kept a mobile phone underneath two chairs and they put a sheet of glass on top and they created their own digital whiteboard. So necessity is the mother of invention, right? It is always.
Correct. So, sir, moving towards the third question, that is leadership
Mhm,
quality is a part of learning system. So, how do
mhm.
you think that this quality can be inculcated by the teachers into a students, and especially virtually in this time, about leadership, sir, for the teachers?
So I think one of the most important things about leadership,
Mhm.
there is a big myth, there is a huge misconception that we need to take care of.
Mhm.
How we come to perceive leaders is, there is this tall guy, or usually a guy.
Yeah,
We have this stereotype in them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Usually a guy, he's tall, he should look like a leader, he
Great
should be a good
personality.
orator, great personality. He should have left Bollywood and entered leadership, right? Should have a deep, strong, powerful voice. We want all that, right? So we have the image of someone who is commanding and controlling.
Yes.
This is the traditional definition of leadership. Please, my request to all the teachers who might be listening right now, the world has changed. We need to move from command and control to connection and service. We need to move from command and control to creating leaders who can connect and who can serve.
Right.
The problems we are facing right now are the outcome of this outdated idea we have of a leader.
Mhm.
He should be the one who's commanding everything. No, leaders should be the one serving.
Correct.
When you have empathy, when you are coming with a service mindset, you can change the world, you can transform. This is what we need to. And you know what the good thing about service is? You don't need permission to serve.
Mm.
You don't need somebody's permission to be kind to them.
Correct.
You don't need,
Absolutely.
as you said, help somebody in the neighborhood with something. You
Mhm.
don't need anybody's permission. So if you don't need permission to serve, that means you don't need permission to become a leader. So which means everyone can become a leader.
Mm.
Leadership is not in the titles. We need to teach this to our youngsters.
Mm.
Teachers have an important role to play in it, right?
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. So, sir, moving towards the next question, being a speaker, you had interacted with a lots of students, and every student has a different personality. So, for a teacher, how much challenging it is to understand every child's need and personality. So, are you there, sir?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I was
Listening to you,
asking,
yes.
I'm repeating the question again. Being a speaker, you have interacted with a lots of students and teacher, and everyone has a
Mhm,
different personality, right? So for a
mhm,
teacher,
mhm.
how much challenging it is to understand every child's mentality, personality, and how a teacher can work on it.
I think this is a wonderful concept. I love it. The whole idea about, understand each child and customize and understand their learning styles and so many other things. But here's what we need to keep in mind. We need to make sure that teachers are not burdened with all sort of additional tasks.
Hmm.
We need to reduce the burdens of teachers and make sure that when the teacher walks into the classroom, he or she can teach to the best of their ability.
Correct. Correct.
Right? Use automation, use softwares, use assistants if you have to. But if we are overburdening teachers with administrative, bureaucratic, paper filling jobs in the hope that they can customize it for every student, it won't happen. They already have so many students to take care of. So if
They cannot
every
give
teacher,
their
I believe,
100%.
they cannot. They
Yeah.
cannot. So if we want
Hmm.
that teachers should be able to give personalized attention to everyone, this is what they need to do. This is what school leaders need to do. This is what policymakers need to do. We need to reduce the bureaucratic burden on teachers so that they can focus on what they do best.
And I think one burden can be decreased from technology, because technology is helping a lot to the teachers. Even in
Yes,
our
yes,
platform,
yes.
we are actually helping lots of things to the teachers by using technology.
Mhm.
So moving forward to the next question, sir, what are your views on conducting tests specifically? Let's suppose if I am doing something, then I need to judge myself. So same like that,
Mm.
in the case of students, they need to judge themselves that how they are performing and all. So what do you think about that? Conducting
See,
tests.
tests can be very dangerous. This is what I believe.
Agree, agree.
Tests have become to be an integral part of the education system, but they can be very, very dangerous in the sense that we are using a 2 hour, 3 hour window to assess the child on so many things. And especially in the Indian scenario, the parents, the teachers, and the kids themselves, they give a huge amount of weightage to the score. Their life depends on it, so their self-worth is connected to their scores. So we need to broaden that. That's all that I feel. Tests are important, right? Standardized testing, I don't think we can do away with it entirely anytime soon. But what we need to do is to ensure that we broaden our approach as far as testing, evaluating is concerned, so that we are able to take into consideration softer aspects of a student's personality and so many other things. This is super, super important. Yeah.
And we do
So
believe,
we can't do away with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do believe test is something which should be used to know your weak part. There must be some points where you are lacking, and it should be only for the improvement. It should not be that I am the first, I am second, I am third. This kind of mentality creates some sort of wrong impression, and even these problems can become a mental health problem in the students, because
It already has. It has
yeah.
become. It has become the lot of the youth suicide issues that we see in this country are connected with test scores. Or I didn't make it through IIT, or I didn't clear the UPSC, and there's youngsters committing suicide over that. That is our fault. We need to introspect as society, as educators, as teachers, as parents. We need to introspect why has it come to something like this? Why have we created such a hyper competitive environment?
Right, right. So moving towards the next question, sir, I have seen quite some of your videos where you are talking about meditation, spirituality, Bhagavad Gita, Quran, right?
Mhm.
What do you
Mhm.
think the role
Mhm.
of teachers here? How a teacher take these things into the student's life? Because these are very important, and I can feel it because I do
Mhm.
meditation. Then I actually feel that a kind of peace I get from meditation, or when I read some kind of books from where I actually get to learn so many things. So I can feel it. It is very important. What do you think? How teachers can take these things into students' life?
I think there are two aspects. I will answer your question in two parts. Part one
Mhm,
is meditation, learning how to calm your mind, control your mind, and feeding the mind with positive things.
mhm,
By all means, teachers should encourage it. They should practice it in the classroom.
mhm,
There is meditation is such a powerful tool. If youngsters can learn it, we'll have a world that'll be very, very peaceful.
mhm,
Because world peace starts with inner peace, I believe. So if teachers can teach inner peace, that will be the first step towards
correct.
achieving world peace, right? So now the question is about how do you
Spirituality.
do it?
Mhm,
Simple breathing techniques.
mhm,
Teach them the simple breathing techniques. Teach them how to focus on their breath. Teach them how to be slow at times, how to slow their thought processes, how to be more centered, how to be more balanced, especially during the very stressful times of exams. and other such situations. Now, also teachers have a very important role in when you part of the question is about spirituality and religion. This is where the only thing that teachers should focus on in a classroom is teach them oneness. Teach them to love and respect and embrace each other.
Correct.
Teach their students, even if you look different, you talk different, you follow different gods, you have different practices, still I don't hate you. You're still a fellow human being and I love you. And we need to start on that if we need a peaceful world, if we need a country that flourishes, if we need a world that flourishes economically, socially, scientifically, human beings, we need to stop killing each other, stop hating each other. And this starts with the young minds in the school, and teachers have a huge role to play in that.
Correct.
Right? So, yeah, to maintain that sort of equality in your classroom. So whether it's about Islamophobia, if a teacher encounters that in the classroom, it's a great opportunity to take it up right there and just make sure you nip it in the bud right there and bring the parents in and say, no, this is probably heading in the wrong direction. Because hatred, once it's planted in the mind, if you plant the seeds of hatred, the trees of hatred grow.
Correct.
So we need to be very careful with these young minds, right? Or any other religion, for example, or his Sikh jokes, or his Hindu jokes, or his Baniya jokes, or whatever it is. Right. No community, nobody on the caste, community, color in this country should be made fun of, and teachers have a huge role in that to make sure that if teachers leave a lifelong impression on their students. If a teacher can just teach this one thing or leave an impression to the students that you're all the same, you come in different packages, you have different shapes and forms, you have different practices at home, but you may not agree with each other. That's also the beauty. Teach your students that you may not agree with the other person, but you don't have to hate him.
Correct.
I don't agree with your point of view. I don't agree with your worldview. I don't agree with your practices. I don't endorse them, but I don't hate you.
Correct.
Yeah. And that creates a better world where we will flourish economically, scientifically, in every way. And teachers have a huge role, and meditation is a great place to start. And when I say meditation, maybe even if we don't go towards chanting, even if we don't go towards any one particular religious book, even if youngsters can just focus on their breathing and just focus on their breathing and slow their thought processes and learn to love and appreciate themselves and each other, we will have better, happier classrooms. We will have a better, happier country.
Like after listening to you, I was like in another word, because I've lost myself at a point of time. So moving towards the next question, sir, I have seen some of your videos where you are talking about mindset and skill set, right? I really wanted to know about like when student mindset, how a teacher can play a huge role to change the mindset of the student, because from the 5 years age group to 18 years age group, a student spends lots of time with the teachers. So what is the role of teacher in these things?
I think in shaping the mindset, teachers have a huge role. I'll give you an example here, Suraj. When I was about to, when I cleared my 10th examination, I did pretty well. I was third in the city. So my principal decided, since you've done so well, you've topped, and you must take either medical or non-medical. So I said, I don't know. I mean, commerce was out of question, arts was out of question.
Right.
And so she gave me the admission in the non-medical, and I went back home and I picked up the books of physics and chemistry, and I realized this is not for me.
Okay.
So I told my mother, I said, look, it doesn't seem like these subjects are coming to me naturally. She said, okay, we'll go and see a professor, a gentleman who teaches accounts, who's a teacher, who's a professor of commerce. Why don't you go meet him? So I met him. And I still remember, Suraj, this one sentence he told me, and it changed the course of my life. He said, it doesn't matter which subjects you take, as long as you're in the top 10% of your class, you will get somewhere in life. Right. I was like, really? Even if I'm in commerce? So in my family, there was a huge stigma around this, because we have a lot of medicos, a lot of engineers, but not more doctors than engineers.
Even every family have same things.
Right, pretty much. And they say, okay, commerce is considered maybe not the best option. But when I took it and I did well in it, and I think that was the right choice. And the next thing happened with hotel management. After commerce in 10+2, I had the option of either going for BCom or studying for CA or company secretary examination or other sort of things. But then hotel management examination came up. So we created a video series for that as well. If your teachers or your students are interested, please go watch that. It's called SJ's Life Stories, in which I narrate how I filled up the form, how the interview came in. There was zero planning, but it happened. So that was another radical decision. which was again moving from commerce to hospitality, which is again based on the same thing, that follow your gut instinct. Follow your gut instinct, and you don't have to follow the road that everybody else is taking. So teachers have a huge role by having these little conversations off the syllabus. I still remember one of my favorite teachers in school was a gentleman who was a history teacher, but he was very good at storytelling. So the subject was a little bit boring, but his stories were so interesting that we used to go to listen to his stories, because after the class there would Morris sir, I still remember Morris sir. So Morris sir will share with us his story after the history class is over. तो क्या मजा आता था उसमें, we used to, every child in the class would be like hanging on to every word that came out of his mouth. So how long would it take? 3 minutes, 5 minutes for his story? And sometimes he would connect it with the history lessons also. Now that's a teacher that I'm talking about, who left a lifelong impact. So this is how you shape the mindset: storytelling, by having little conversations with the students, right? Take out 5 minutes. And I think schools should also allow this, a little informal time between the teacher and do not overburden the system so much that they don't have enough time to have a little informal chit chat.
And taking one point from you, sir, I just want to add one other thing, whatever you said. When you talk about that storytelling and all, so I actually believe when you want to explain something to your students, so you should create a story, and from that story you can teach them. I actually do this in my class for the physics subject, for the subject like physics, right? And you can choose that daily life example. From that, students will actually feel that this is not something from different beyond another planet. This is something in our daily life thing. So this is something
they can relate to it. They can relate to it. So that's how, if you can do it for a subject like physics, I mean, come on, that's an example for everybody to follow, right? Well done. Great job.
Thank you, sir. So moving towards the next question, sir, you have been to different places around the globe. And how does the education pattern methodology differs at different places? And also, what is the common points you have found in it?
See, first of all, so whenever we're drawing a comparative like situation like this, I must say that we have a very robust education system here in India, which has produced some of the world's leading researchers, doctors, scientists, whether it's ISRO, whether it's NASA, whether it's Intel, whether it's in US or Australia or Middle East or across the world. So no doubt absolutely about that. However, I think we should all reconsider, whenever changes happen, we should pay attention. Whenever change happens, we should change also. Now the change is happening in the outside world. We should also look at upgrading our education system, and what we should be focusing on, couple of things: creativity, imagination, innovation. These are the things we need to promote more in our education system, right? Our earlier system was designed to produce people who would work for the factory system, who would be obedient, right? Who would not question, who would not think originally. And that was the earlier model of the system. Now is the age of ideas, is the age of innovation. We need young minds who can think, who can imagine, who can create businesses just like yourself, who can create more jobs. How else can we give employment to millions of unemployed youth in this country? Government cannot do it alone. A few corporate houses cannot do it alone. We need small, medium, micro entrepreneurs. So if it's somebody like Trio Teachers, or someone like Simarjit Singh running a small team of 4 or 5 people, or somebody like you running a small team of 5 or 6 people, adding 5 or 6 jobs in the neighborhood. That's how the economy is going to grow. And these all have to be service, knowledge economy. We're living in the knowledge economy. So we need to excel. So therefore, with due regard, I'm a product of the system. I'm a very proud product of the system. I respect every single teacher who has contributed to my life. I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you. So I will not say that no, our education system is not good. I will say it has been very solid. It has produced some wonderful people. But just like every other thing, as you said, you mentioned the Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavad Gita also says the same thing, right? That change is the universal law of life. So now it's time for us to change from moving from a traditional economy to a knowledge-based service economy. We need to change. We need to bring in imagination, even if it's agriculture. Even if it's agriculture, we need to move beyond wheat and paddy and move into organic farming, or move into direct delivery to consumers. We need to reinvent every sector.
Totally agree with you, sir. Moving to the next question, sir. This question is actually very close to myself, because I always wanted to ask this question from a speaker like you. The next question is: as we know, you left your career and choose the way of your self-discovery, right? So how much important is this, the role of teachers in helping a student to discover itself, and what do you think personalized analysis, mentoring help to the students?
See, all those things will work. Personalized analysis, mentoring, psychology, the psychometric tests, and so many other things. But more importantly, a teacher knows instinctive at an instinctive level the student, right? The teacher knows his or her students at a gut level in a different way. When this problem is there in the classroom, his eyes have a sparkle, or she feels very happy when this thing is there, right? Just like so. That's the instinct we need to tap into as teachers.
Right.
Not just relying on psychometric testing. So we are living in a generation where we say, oh, every problem, the solution is there to Google. Just go to Google and find out. I disagree. Human intelligence is far, and especially when it comes to gut instinct.
And
A
we have
teacher
created
who's
that technology, so we have created that.
yeah, since absolutely. So how long you've been teaching, Suraj?
It's been 4 years, sir.
4 years.
I
So
have
it's been
started
four
teaching
years.
from my first year.
Wow. So straight out of college, you started teaching.
Yeah.
So these 4 years, you would have developed a sort of a gut instinct about students. And as you spend more time, for someone who spent maybe 10 years or 40 years, they can walk into a classroom and they pose a problem and they can see who stands where. So this teacher is a nature's psychometric test. So this is what I'm asking every teacher to do. Spend some time to figure out, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and don't put them all in the same box. Understand that they've all come with their unique gifts, and that's what makes them beautiful. You'll have person A who's very good at mathematical ability, person B who's very good at making excuses, right? Person C is very good at making friends. Another person is very good at.
These are actually skills which is very important in our life.
Of course. So a teacher to nurture them, don't suppress it. The only problem I would say sometimes as teachers, we jump to the conclusion that academic ability is perhaps the only parameter of a good student. Who's a good student? The one who tops the class is a good student, right? The one who has 100% attendance is a good student. I would say we need to broaden that definition a little bit. A problem solver is a good student. An original thinker is a good student. An innovator is a good student. Somebody who's asking a lot of questions is a good student because he's listening. If he's not listening, he would not be asking questions. So we need to have a little bit more patience, a little bit more empathy, a little bit more time. And that's why I said decision makers and school leaders and whoever is involved, that we need to make sure that teachers are removed from the additional burdens of bureaucratic things so that they have 100% focus on teaching.
Correct. So totally agree with you, sir. And it is actually a very much learning experiences for me as well, because in a very small age, I'm just 23 years old. And
oh, wow. I am super impressed. Well. Good. And therefore, no surprise that you're already running a startup and you're following your dreams and you're adding value to the economy. We need more youngsters like you, Suraj.
Thank you. So, sir, moving to the last question, because I won't take so much time from you. You have a very busy schedule, I know. The last question is that one thing which you want to appreciate in our education system, and that another one thing which you think this is the worst thing which we can have, and that should be immediate change.
I think the one thing that I'd like to appreciate is dedication. Dedication. The teachers come with a huge amount of dedication for their students in this country, especially when many of the teachers themselves are struggling with their own challenges as well. Teaching is not the first choice of profession for many of them, but still they're showing up, they're adding value, and I salute their dedication. And I would also urge them to give a little bit more, because you know what they say, one candle, if it lights, you can light 100 candles with one candle or 1,000 other candles. Still the life of that one candle is going to be the same. So every teacher is like a candle. So it's your choice. Do you want to light maybe 100 other candles or 1,000 or 1,000,000? You will still burn at the same rate, right? So you're not going to burn any faster. So think from that perspective. So I appreciate the commitment
and commitment of teachers.
Yep, dedication and commitment to the profession. One thing I think should change immediately is the amount of stress that we generate in our classrooms. They are not just in our classrooms. Our parents are responsible too.
Exactly.
Students themselves are also responsible for it. Their peer pressure, their friends are also responsible for it. But as a society, we are collectively responsible for the huge amount of pressure that the education system is creating on these young minds, which is not good. Because we don't just need, Suraj, we don't just need more scientists and more engineers. We also need more cricketers. We also need more medals in the
More medals in
Olympics. We
Olympics.
also need, yeah, we also need more farmers.
Hmm.
We also need more entrepreneurs like yourself. We also need more graphic designers. We need 10 more Elon Musks here. We need
India,
Steve
yeah.
Jobs here. Yeah, we need them here. And they are here. I'll tell you
Yeah.
why they're here, because many of them, when they go to the US or other parts of the world, they are working for those companies. Google campus, I had the privilege of visiting back in 2016. And for a moment, I felt as if I'm in Hyderabad, right? So, it's, I don't doubt the intellectual capability of our youngsters.
Exactly.
We, as a society, we need to rethink our approach to education and success in general.
Correct.
Success is not just getting good marks. Success is adding value to humanity and adding value to your nation and living your life so that you enjoy it.
So I don't want to end this conversation, sir, because for me, I am actually enjoying a lot. But I need to end this conversation. I would like to thank you, your team, Manpreet, for accepting our invitation, and thank you so much for this wonderful talk, sir. And in future,
It's
we would
been,
love to collaborate or partnership with you if there will be anything which can be relatable to you, sir.
well, thank you so much for having me, Suraj. And I wish you all the best with the work that you're doing with Trio Teachers. Make sure that you're able to reduce the pressure a little bit, add more value, and create the bright, informed young citizens that this country desperately needs.
Sure, sure.
All the best to you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care. God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye bye, sir.